Good morning, everybody. I'm Don Stewart, and welcome to another edition of Breaking News. Today is Saturday. It is the 11th day of January, 2025, and it's time for the Week in Review, where we look at the stories of the past week and highlight the most important ones that have something to do with last day's Bible prophecy. All right, there have been a number of stories of utmost importance that have made the headlines in this past week. Each will have a profound meaning with respect to what the Bible has to say about our future here on planet Earth. And that includes a new headline this morning. All right, we're going to look at them in three different groups. Group number one, we call it headlines regarding the need to destroy Iran's nuclear program. To begin with, there were three important headlines, including a new one this morning that seems to indicate an inevitable strike on Iran by Israel and possibly with the help of the United States. Okay, here's the new headline that came across this morning, which seemingly makes all of this necessary. It's from the Jerusalem Post. It says Tehran unveils underground weapons facility aimed at making new missiles. General Amir Ali Hajizadeh toured the facility, describing it as a dormant volcano. Iran released footage unveiling the new underground weapons storage facility it used in previous attacks against Israel, which it claims holds new special missiles. Iranian semi-state official media site Tasman reported this at the end of last month, December. Now, in this is a message to the West, we're told. Saudi news outlet al-Arabiya noted that Tehran released the video only shortly before Donald Trump is set to return to the White House. The video was also released after certain fighters paraded through Tehran with their heavy weaponry and military vehicles, a demonstration which also saw hundreds reportedly carrying coffins decorated with Israeli flags. During the demonstration, General Mohammad Reza Nagli told the crowd that the U.S. was behind all the misfortune in the Muslim world, and if we are able to destroy the Zionist regime and withdraw the American bases in the region, one of our big problems will be resolved, according to al-Arabiya. All right. Now, in response to this, we have two stories we highlighted earlier this week that seem to point out the inevitable that this cannot continue. The U.S. and Israel must do something. The next headline that we already looked at was Donald Trump will support strikes on Iran's nuclear program. Sources say this from the Jewish News Service. Israeli Minister Ron Dermer, after meeting with Donald Trump, reportedly said the incoming president would likely back such a preventive attack. And we know that the U.S. has more sophisticated weapons than Israel that could seemingly do the job once and for all. And we had a second headline this last week. Israeli attack on Iran's nuclear program in 2025 could transform the Middle East. This is from the Jerusalem Post. Now, suddenly, there is the possibility that Israel could eliminate the Iranian nuclear facilities either by airstrike or by special forces operation. There seems to be an inevitability about all these stories which indicate this. Now, if this is true, and this is why this is so important, it would truly change the future course of the Middle East. For Iran without a nuclear program would not be any major threat to Israel, seeing that its surrogates Hezbollah and Hamas have become somewhat neutralized. And this is something we've been predicting to happen for years. While Iran has been the most high-profile military threat to Israel for decades, it will not remain that way, according to last day's Bible prophecy. As we have stressed time after time, it will be Russia who will eventually lead an invasion of Israel with Iran and Turkey as surrogates. In other words, Iran's nuclear capability may be rendered inoperative, but this does not mean that it will cease being a lesser threat to Israel. And that's what we must keep in mind. Now, we document this in our books. 25 signs, we're near the end, signs 7 through 9, as well as Appendix 4, which asks the question, would a regional war between Israel and Iran fulfill Bible prophecy? Ezekiel 38:39. And we said, no, it would not. We explained why it wouldn't. We've also got an entire book dedicated to this subject called the Ezekiel 38:39 Invasion. These books are free downloads from our website, Educating Our World, and can be found also on our app, EOW with Don Stewart, which is also a free download. So, sum up, 2025 will seemingly tell the tale as to the ultimate fate of Iran's nuclear program. And of course, we will keep you posted. Now, stories number two are surrounded around Turkey's aspiration for an empire, and it's confirmed over its struggle with Israel with respect to Syria. Now, picking up on this same theme, we had a couple of important stories about Turkey and their adventurism. Recall that Turkey will be alongside Iran in the last day's invasion of Israel that will be led by Russia, which we also explain in the above mentioned books. Turkey, therefore, like Iran, must be motivated to attack Israel. And that's exactly where we find this country now. Now, as we've mentioned before, this is not always the case, but it is now. So we had these two headlines. First one is Turkey's Erdogan's aspiration, an empire. This is from the Israeli website Hayom. And Erdogan has visions of the glory days of Turkey and the Ottoman Empire returning. A little history is helpful here. In 1517, Syria, Arabia, the Holy Land, and Egypt became under the Ottoman control. This would last some 400 years. At the beginning of World War I, the Ottoman Empire had already begun to decline. Its army entered the war in 1914 on the side of Germany and Austria-Hungary. It was defeated in October 1918, and most of its territories that made up the empire were divided between France, Greece, Russia, and Britain. The official end of the empire was 1922. Now, Erdogan aspires of bringing Turkey back to those glory days of the Ottoman Empire, where at one time in the 17th century, it actually covered some 2 million square miles, 2 million square miles. Now, our next story illustrates what's going on. It's another headline we had, emerging Turkey-Israel competition over the control of Syria. This is from the Russian website New Eastern Outlook, and it talks about what we've got now with the Syria being lost. The Assad regime is now gone. Syria is up for grabs. And so it's, as we say here, it's hard to explain how profound the fall of the Assad regime in Syria was. All of a sudden, the strategic territory is now fair game. It's open up for grabs. And both Turkey and Israel recognize their importance, that they have strategic assets in Syria, and also for different reasons. For Israel, it's for defense. For Turkey, it's adventurous, and they want to expand again the Turkish Empire like the old days of the Ottoman Empire. So what it does, it sets the stage for Turkey eventually joining the Ezekiel 38-39 invasion. So they're fighting over Syria for different reasons. Israel doesn't want to have anything to do with Syria. They don't want to, basically populate it or anything like that. They just need it for defense of their northern border. And so they will have to fight for that. Okay, so we've got that. Now, a third set of stories to come this week remind us there is no such thing as heaven on earth. Remember, we did the headline, Toyota's futuristic woven city in Japan is ready for its first residents. This is from the website The Verge, and it's a story about a supposed utopia that Toyota was constructing, namely a futuristic city that would seemingly be an ideal for any human being to live in. However, how wonderful and fulfilling it may be, ultimately it's going to be meaningless. And this is similar to people who seek to always have good health or attempt to live forever in these bodies. Now, good health obviously is a noble goal, but it's just not possible to achieve in the long run. If we are healthy now, it's only temporary. These bodies have not been made to live forever, and like everything else, we're going to grow old, not function as well as we have in the past, and then cease to function altogether. Now, as we previously mentioned, in the very beginning after the flood, the human race defied God and built the Tower of Babel. In other words, we're going to build our own utopia here down on earth. And we talk about this in some detail in our book, The Bible and Science, Are They in Conflict? In particular, Volume 4, we call it Cain and Abel, the Sons of God, the Flood, and the Tower of Babel. And we have a question there, question 46. Why did the people defy the Lord and settle in Babel? And this is the first of many times in history that the people did not listen to the commands of God and attempted to rebel against him. And it's going to be true all the way up into the time of the second coming of Jesus Christ. Now, a second story that illustrates there's no such thing as heaven on earth is the horrific fires we are continuing to experience here in Southern California. Again, this is an ongoing story. It's destroyed at least 10,000 plus properties, 10,000, possibly more. We've had stories as much as 13,000 properties, and are destroyed by the fires. And right now, the count of the damage is over $150 billion with a B and going up. Now, a story from Zero Hedge 2 days ago explained some things about it. They said expectations of economic losses stemming from the fires have more than doubled since yesterday. Can you imagine that? Since yesterday, the day before, this is what, Thursday they did the story, since Wednesday, it doubled actually, from closer to 50 billion. And we estimate the insured losses from the event could exceed 20 billion and even more if the fires are not controlled. And they compared it to the 2018 Butte County Camp Fires, was the highest insured loss wildfires in California history, with insured losses of roughly $10 billion. The Butte fire were close to two-thirds of the economic losses, about $15 billion. The event, and if you recall, it impacted over 150,000 acres and affected over 18,000 houses and buildings. Now, as the story says, and here's the thing, there is another story we're going to do on Monday where this could be the fires in Southern California. Right now, it's the seventh worst disaster in the history of the U.S. It could be number one if it keeps going the way it's going. We'll talk about that on Monday. But anyway, the story goes on to say, while the current wildfires haven't affected as much acreage or as many houses as the Camp Fire that in Northern California in 2018, that's thus far, more of the damage is concentrated in the affluent Pacific Palisades area, which has high value residential homes. The median home price in Pacific Palisades for a house is over $3 million. $3 million when Butte County was less than 500,000 per house was the value. Moreover, the fires have not been contained thus far, continue to spread, implying that estimates of potential economic and insured losses are likely to increase. The affluent areas in Southern California, including Pasadena and Altadena and the Eaton fire, continue to be devastated by these fires with warnings of more high winds coming. We're told this. Today is Saturday morning. We're told tomorrow the winds will return. They supposedly will not be as bad as they were, on Tuesday when everything hit, but they're still not going to be good. So the end is not here yet. All right. So what it does, it starkly points out the truth that there's no such thing here as paradise on earth. No matter where anyone may live, there will always be problems. While we should make the best of it and be content wherever we are living at, we must realize that our enjoyment or satisfaction here on earth is only temporary, only a nanosecond as far as eternity is concerned. And I'll close with a story and then a passage of scripture that illustrates what we've been talking about. In the 1930s, there was a learned Australian who could see that there was going to be a second world war. He saw it coming and he thought, I'm going to go somewhere and sit it out. So he decided to move safely away from the land of wonder, from Australia, to the Solomon Islands where he would sit out the war. And he chose the island of Guadalcanal. Now, most of you know Guadalcanal was eventually the scene in 42, 43 of some of the strongest, worst fighting in the Second World War. And the point is, no matter where you go, there's always going to be a problem. So in summing up these three stories, they not only confirm how Scripture sees the world developing at the time of the end, but there's also lessons for us where we find our ultimate satisfaction. I want to read to you as we close here what Paul said in Philippians 4:11-13. It's a great lesson for all of us. I am not saying this because I am in need, for I have learned to be content in any circumstance. I have experienced times of need and times of abundance. In any and every circumstance, I have learned the secret of contentment. Whether I go satisfied or hungry, have plenty or nothing, I am able to do all things through the one who strengthens me, namely Christ. Philippians 4:11-13. Each of us certainly needs to learn that lesson, particularly those of us living here in Southern California. All right, that was the summation of the events of the week in review. We'll have tomorrow, the Sunday lesson, we call it the Sunday messages, and Monday we'll have the latest headlines with what's going on. If something warrants, we will break in and do a special breaking news tomorrow also. But until Monday, at least for breaking news, and tomorrow for Sunday messages, I'm Don Stewart saying thank you so much for watching. And as always, may the Lord richly, richly bless.